Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. I'd like to call to order the meeting, Downtown Design Review Board meeting for December 18th. First item is to review the minutes from last time. Do we have any comments or revisions? Oh, the board. Yes, sorry. I don't have my script, so we're winging it a little bit. Let's do our introductions.
Yeah, Cameron Boland, AIA representative.
Rick Blackburn, Historic Zoning Commission.
Matthew DeBardlapen, Downtown Knoxville Alliance.
Tony Allen, Downtown Development Rep.
Laura Wen, Downtown Residential Representative.
Jared Worsham, Downtown Resident Representative.
Suzanne Taravella, Neighborhood Representative.
Lindsay Crockett, Knox Planning.
Melinda Woolert, Knox Planning.
Dallas D. Armand, Planning.
Christina McGrath, Tillery City Law Department.
Mark Reels, City of Knoxville, Plans Review and Inspections.
Thank you, everybody. Now we will do a review of the minutes and any comments or revisions.
I move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our certificates of appropriateness. The first one on the list is 207 East Jackson Avenue. They have requested to postpone, so we need to make a motion to accept that request.
I'll make a motion to postpone 12B 24DT.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. We are going to move on through to infill housing, and Lindsay will start us off on that.
Okay, so this is a revised proposal. We have seen it at the August meeting and at last month's meeting. So I'm going to just run through these revisions in the staff comments. Overall, this is it's a new townhouse building fronting Bragg Street with 4 units. The elevations have been revised since the last meeting. So the facade fronting Bragg Street now features 4 2-story projecting front gable massings. They each have 2 double-hung windows on both stories. The left side elevation fronting Delaware Avenue has a 4-foot deep, 1-bay stoop with a secondary entrance. And I'll run through the rest of those in the comments. So just to speak to some of those, there are site plan revisions that may be necessary to meet city engineering and middle housing standards, including parking setbacks from the interior side lot lines. The rightmost parking spot may end up being required to be removed. Parking is required typically to be angled to back in the alley. However, off-street parking is not required at this site by the middle housing standards, so parking could be omitted altogether. The revised elevations relate to the context further via projecting front porches. There's a full-width shed roof porch, and then projecting gable roof massings. Guidelines also recommend that bays or breaks in the front facade are provided. The proposed design remains rectangular in form, but the revised drawings have bays in the facade with 4 2-story projecting front gable massings. They indicate trim and variation in color to distinguish the units and the stories of the building. The Bragg Street elevation has a 4-foot deep full-length porch recessed under a shed roof, which is a revision from the previous design. The Delaware Street elevation has also been revised. It has 1 secondary entrance recessed under the partial width shed roof front porch. The application has been revised to incorporate typical double-hung windows. The windows have a more symmetrical arrangement than initially proposed. The placement and proportion of these windows is sufficient for the context. The secondary door on Delaware Avenue is not in a location not consistent with historic front doors. The door could be placed in the same location as this window adjacent. Also, the steel doors with the fanlight windows should be revised to be aligned with the historic context with specifications provided to staff for approval. The board may opt to discuss the placement of these doors on the Bragg Street elevation, which you can see in elevation here, and then in the renderings here, they're a little less visible. So the recommendation refers to speaking to the door placement on the Bragg Street elevation, if there's any other necessary changing in siding pattern to break up that large massing. But staff is recommending approval of 8E 24IH, subject to the conditions that the final site plan and elevation drawings meet middle housing standards and city engineering standards, with minor revisions to be approved by staff. Revisions to the Delaware Street elevation to locate that secondary door in the location of the adjacent window, and then revised door specs, the literal doors themselves, to be submitted to staff for approval.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I am present. This is Sean, 2426 Highland Drive in Knoxville.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
Yeah, I think I got the comment over there. The two things I just want to clarify is on the on the door that was mentioned. I just want to clarify that the ask is literally to remove the second window, the one on the left side over here, right underneath the porch over there. Remove that window and put the door over there. So that means we have two windows at the top and one window and one door at the lower. Yes, exactly. That one. I just want to make sure that that's the ask.
That is in the staff recommendation, and we'll let the board make that final determination, but that would be my recommendation there. Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing I want to point out is on the door. So we literally drove around the neighborhood over there to see the doors. The 4-panel with fan lights at the top. That's what I mean. We're trying to match this thing as much as possible, right? 1330 Delaware, 1324, 1314, 1509, 1511. All of them have this same 4-panel fan light at the top kind of door. I would love to be specific. If you want us to change it to 6-panel, we'll be without any transparency at the top or anything you recommend. We'll be glad to make that change.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll open up the discussion to the board.
Well, I think this looks a lot better than where we started for sure. So I appreciate the effort on that thus far. My first question would be, I appreciate how you're laying out the units, but I know that there's closets up on the top floor, which is why we talked about that last time about the closet and the window placement. But would there be any way to include a window for the staircase or something like that to be able to break up that massing on the street elevation on Bragg Street? It's pretty blank in between those units as you've set them up.
So you like right on top where we have doors right now, we want another window over there?
I'm actually thinking possibly both, but on the door, I was actually talking about the second floor where there's a large expanse of blank siding between the vertical elements of the townhouses, the gables. If there could be a window at the, I don't think you want to put it at the closet, but could you put it at the stair system?
Yeah, so, go ahead, sorry.
No, that was it.
Yeah, so my comment on that, we had to make some internal adjustments for us to be able to do this. So the closet has been moved to where you have right on top of the doors right now. That's where the closet has been moved from the conversation we were talking about last week a little bit. Mm-hmm. So on the upper side now, it's all stairs going up. And literally, if you put any window over there, it's not seeing anything. From there, it just 4 inches from there, 4 feet from there, see the window going up over there. So literally, the window is not going to be in the bedroom. And then even if we put it on top of the doors, where the doors are sitting right now, it's going to be in the closet in that case, but it's a small closet.
Right. Well, I mean, my opinion would even be having the window over the stair would bring daylight into the space, but also help with that facade. It's pretty blank. So it's basically that section and then the section beside the door that seem a little blank. I mean, one way to break it up would be to shift your unit to have them all left justified across Bragg Street. You've symmetrically laid out those townhouses. Is there any way that they all could justify to one side rather than alternate like you have it across the project?
I think the main issue on that one would be on the on number 4. We're gonna have, because the way the inside is laid out right now, the kitchen is gonna be moved to the other side, and it's gonna be difficult for us to have the exit door on the opposite side in the kitchen. The door is currently sitting in the dining, so it would be weird if we switch the kitchen to the other side. We wouldn't be able to have an exit door over on that side. I mean, the only way we can accommodate that is if the exit door for Unit 4 goes to the back of the house rather than being symmetric with what we have facing Delaware, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
If it's just going to be for embellishment, an economical solution you might want to consider is just frame the window on the exterior and put spandrel glass in it.
Say that again, I didn't catch that, I'm sorry.
It's just embellishment. You're not using it for light, so just frame the window like the others over the center so it's symmetrical, and then just put spandrel glass in it and it'll look like the other windows, but you're not having to penetrate the exterior or anything like that.
Well, there is room to have real windows above the stairs in the middle, another set like you have in the bedrooms, and it would just span that center wall between units where the center line is indicated now. Yep, right there. You could put another double set right in the middle, and then the stairways would have natural light and the exterior would have more windows.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is if we have to do that, I don't know, maybe you're looking at what I sent in and the interior side. If we have to do that, like right at the center, you will realize that it's gonna be like right between the closet and the stairs over there inside.
I'm saying if you use the center line of the whole building and put one window on either side of that center line, then it looks like you would have one over each stair, because those stairs are back to back next to the center line.
Okay. So we're talking 4 additional windows at the top over there, if I get that right.
I was just talking about 2, but you could also put one on either side. Basically centered over the landing of the stair in each case. Are there any other comments or discussion?
I mean, that's really all I think we're focusing on is just breaking up the expanse. So I think the stair over the door, does anybody have comment on this window, or sorry, the window at the stair? I apologize, on the upper level. But does there need to be a window on the next to the door as well? That's pretty step back. I mean, I guess it reads as an entry, so maybe it doesn't have to have the window there because it's got the double hungs projecting out further. Maybe that's less consequential. But I mean, I think we're just getting to granular discussions, so it's not, I think overall the project's a lot better. But if there was a way to introduce those upper windows at the stair, I think that would help a lot. And if there was even more, a second version would be if you could stack all the gable systems to the left and figure out that exit door at the kitchen. Maybe it goes out back, then that would break up the blank expanse that much more. I don't know if anybody else has comments on that too.
I'm not sure that we're going to make any great improvements. I do think adding the 2 windows to the stairwell is an improvement. You're also taking a window away. So I would like to make a motion to pass per staff recommendation, adding the 2 windows on the upper floor where the stairwell is.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much for all of your work.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Okay, next up, we are going to talk about 12B24IH. That's 3350 Midway Street.
Okay, this is a new primary structure. It's a single-family house fronting Midway Street. It is a one-story residence with a front gable roof, an 8/12 pitch, an exterior vinyl lap siding, and a slab foundation clad in stucco. The house has a 6-foot deep, full-length front porch with a front gable roof. The parking is proposed to be a 12-foot wide concrete pad located in the front of the house, and that would be accessed from Midway Street. The house is proposed to be set 32 feet from the front property line. The front porch is at 26. The average setback of the block is 24.1 feet. And so the front setback should be revised to align with the adjacent houses. And the final site plan should include a walkway from the front door to the street. The block to receive new construction is characterized by minimal traditionals and a good deal of infill construction that are small and one-story rectangular houses. So this is proportionate to the lot and consistent with the neighborhood. The guidelines recommend that on lots without alleys, parking is a driveway that is at least 20 feet behind the front facade of the infill house with access limited to 1 lane. So parking is currently proposed for the front yard and should be revised to meet the design guidelines. The site plan should meet city engineering standards. The design guidelines recommend a porch that's 8 to 12 feet towards the street. This has a 6-foot deep front porch. And then the windows and door styles, including the transparency, the roof pitch, and the materials meet the infill housing guidelines. So staff is recommending approval of 12B24IH subject to the front setback being revised to align with the houses, the site plan revised to avoid that front yard parking. The site plan include the walkway from the front door to the street and the tree in the front and rear yards, and the porch depth be revised to 8 feet, and the site plan to meet city engineering standards.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
They are not.
Okay. Then we will open it up for discussion.
I only had one comment on the foundation. It's shown at 12 inches as, I think guidelines were as 18 generally we're trying to meet.
There's not a specific number. It
Okay.
just says is compatible with the block.
Got it.
The block does seem to have higher foundations. I was looking on Google Street View, and they're all at least 18 inches, if not more, all the way up to 3 feet, it looks like. So I would suggest raising that, or I would support raising that.
Okay. And I would say that with whatever motion we make to just ask them to use the stucco or parge coat rather than split face block, the foundation, which they have noted in there. So,
I'll make the motion to, what? I'll make the motion to approve based on staff recommendations plus the 2 additions that Matthew and
Cameron.
Tony.
Cameron.
Can we have those
Tony.
specified again, please?
Which are?
Wait, you want me to say them? That's why I was calling on them. To put the, go ahead.
Can I say it? I would say raise the foundation to at least 18 inches.
And then to use parch coat instead of split split face block.
Okay, we have a motion.
Shaky.
I'll second that.
We have a motion
Sure.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have a set of 3 that Lindsay's going to talk about. It's, we'll just start with 12B24IH. Nope, that's the next one. 12C24IH at 200 Hiawassee Avenue.
So this is a situation of 3 houses that are adjacent on 3 new lots that are being created. It was initially 1 large lot, and the applicant is creating 3 new 50-foot wide lots. And so we can discuss these 3 together. There are already differentiation between the 3. We don't typically see that. So we can see the front elevation A, B, and C on your screen. So they've introduced differentiation between the dormers, some minor facade elements, but mostly the porch roof and the windows in the gable field. So these are residences fronting Hiawassee Avenue. They have hipped roof and gable with a hipped roof, exteriors of horizontal siding and slab foundations. The houses are 33 feet wide. They'll be set 20 feet from the front property line with partial width 6 feet deep front porches. Parking is a 10-foot wide concrete pad located in the front and accessed via Hiawassee Avenue. So in general, the findings, the houses are proposed to be 20 feet from the front property line, which is slightly less than the average front setback pattern of the block, but the block is very long, has a wide variety of front setbacks. Some are really close and some are very far back. And 3 new houses will kind of create a front setback pattern here, so it is appropriate for the context. The block also doesn't have much architectural context. There's a good deal of infill construction, and then some minimal traditional shotgun houses. So it is proportionate to the lot and to other houses on the block. It's compatible with the neighborhoods in scale. The guidelines recommend that the parking be located behind the front facade of the house, then limited to 1 lane between the street and the front facade. So parking should be revised to meet the guidelines. Guidelines recommend that window and door styles be similar to the historic houses on the block. They typically reference double hung windows instead of the picture windows or the slider windows. So the recommendation would be that the picture windows are revised to single or double hung, with 1 window added to the right and left side elevations, and that could be submitted to staff for approval. Overall, the materials are compatible with the context. The site plan includes a tree in the front yard, and it should also include 1 in the rear yard. And these 3 adjacent houses are sufficiently differentiated from each other as they're all being built at the same time. So this will require 3 motions. I've put them on your screen. The conditions are identical. The site plan should meet city engineering standards. The porch, this is one I didn't speak to in the comments, but the porch should be extended to 8 feet instead of 6 to meet infill housing guidelines, using a lap siding with an overlap. The final site plan include the walkway from the front door to the street, the parking be revised to meet the design guidelines, and then on the facade and side elevation windows, design and placement, some minor revisions, including double hung windows, and that could be approved by staff. And then the site plan should include the trees in the front and rear yards.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Please come up and give us your name and your address.
Thank you. My name is Edilmar Lopez, and my address is 6045 Beverly Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37924.
Great, thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
When you were saying about the siding, I would like to do some changes about the lap siding. If I can do, I'm thinking to do brick around the foundation, just the foundation, and then go with the lap siding on the sides on the back and board and batten on the front, if that's possible. I mean, I don't know if that makes difference or not, but.
We can talk about it. We'll open it up to conversation, and then we'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, I think the brick foundation's great, and the lap siding, but we typically discourage the board and batten unless it's an accent facade. So I guess we should talk about whether the inset's an accent facade rather than a prominent street-facing facade.
Just to clarify, is the inset the part that's on the porch? Is that what we're talking about? The board and batten would be on the porch?
I was thinking the whole front on
Oh, the
one,
full front.
probably shakes in the other one, so that make a little different.
So typically we allow board and batten just in one portion or one area. So if you wanted to just, whether it's the porch or the part that comes forward, choose and then have some variation in the gable and on the other part that doesn't have board and batten.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just think, just so that he can clarify it for understanding, is if he is gonna, what you should do, I would think we'd add if the motion is to clarify that with the drawings, like what you're gonna do where on each of the elevations and have it for staff approval, just so they can see that, because we can't approve what we can't see. So if you can just make that markup on the drawings and send that to Lindsay for her to be able to see that, I think that would give us a documented, this is what was approved as far as using the board and batten and where you're using it versus the shakes and that sort of thing on the elevation, because they're just blank right now, so we can't review that. But it makes sense what you're trying to do. I can see some horizontal siding. It's just that front facade we don't have any information on.
He's just asking you to call out where on the drawings those different siding patterns will be. And you don't have to do it right now. We can do that.
Or if not, I can do stack one, just lap siding all the way.
Okay.
I mean, I would like to start working on it, because
Yeah, so what we were saying is, along with the other revisions that you'll make, and they typically are sent to staff for approval before, when you get your approval and you go to permitting. So if you do want to do different siding patterns, you just write that on the drawing and call it out.
Okay.
And it's simple.
Yeah. What about the brick? I keep those
Yeah,
stack.
you can just make that note on there.
Okay.
Yeah, the brick is honestly an improvement. Usually we don't get brick, so I think brick's a good thing. So I'll make a motion to approve if there's not any other comments based on staff recommendation, and just ask you to, like Lindsay said, mark on those elevations what you're going to do on the front and submit that to staff for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask a quick clarification? So is there anything that's going to be changed to condition number 3? And
Because I think
no?
if he's using the lap siding, it'll still.
Okay. Okay. And then is there anything that needs to be added in terms of the brick foundation? Okay.
I did have one quick question before we move forward. Lindsay, you might be able to answer this. With the rear of the home, is there anything in the guidelines around like porches or anything like that? Since it would be visible from that other street there.
I would say that infill housing guidelines really don't speak to the rear of houses as much. They do, I think, some of the general statements that have to do with like window placement and proportions do that. But there's not typically like a requirement to have a deck or a access or something. Were you gonna have a patio or something at that back door?
That's the other question I have. So this is my first time
you're
doing
fine.
this, so I don't really know a lot about this, but yeah, on the back door I would like to do like a shed or gable roof, a porch, and concrete on the bottom, I guess, so the door don't get damaged, because I see a lot. My job is doing siding, and I see a lot of problems with the water on the back when they don't have like a roof on top. It needs to be protected, so I was thinking on do a small one, probably 10 by 10 or 8 by 8, whatever it needs.
Okay, so I think those are things you're gonna need to show in these drawings for your permit, for sure.
Okay.
because you'll need to show the patio and the roof line and stuff like that. So just give you that notice in advance.
One other thing, I didn't notice a foundation elevation. Did you have an idea for what you wanted to do for that? And it's also a slope site, so how are you going to deal with the different heights for each house?
Well, I guess you're talking about different houses in between the houses. I guess.
Yeah, you're planning on grading it flat at each house, just kind of terraced, or
probably put a drain in between, so water runs there, and I guess it's the best way to go.
I'd like to add a note to the motion to have at least 18 inches for the foundation, the brick foundation height at the front.
Okay, let's restate our motion.
And I guess it would also be helpful if you can address that it is, if this is your desire, 12C, D, and E, because this is 3.
I'd like to make a motion to approve per staff recommendations for 12C, D, and E, 24IH, including the brick foundation being up to at least 18 inches high of height, and that the applicant submits the front elevation design drawings to staff for approval. The siding specifications for the front facade, yes.
I think you should add the back porch too.
As well as clarify the design for the back porch
And that will go to staff for approval.
for staff approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So Lindsay will help you get those revisions in place, but otherwise it's approved.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
and we'll write you an email with everything listed out.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, moving on, we are going to look at 704 East Caldwell Avenue, which is case number 12F24IH.
Okay, this is a rear addition. It's a one-story addition that projects from the rear elevation. It's flush with the existing house. It has a front gable roof with a pitch compatible to the existing. It just kind of extends that roof line. An exterior of horizontal lap siding to match the existing, and a slab foundation clad in stucco. So this is a non-historic house in Oakwood Lincoln Park. So under the infill housing overlay, the board reviews additions that are visible from the primary street. This one will be visible from both sides on Caldwell Avenue. The design guidelines just recommend that additions are proposed for the rear or side of the house. So this meets the guidelines for placement. The guidelines also recommend that siding, roof materials, doors, and windows are compatible with those on the house. And all of these are. They reflect the existing house and the design guidelines. So staff's recommending approval of 12F24IH as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
They are not.
Okay, we'll open it up for discussion.
My only comment on this is that I've seen additions done in line with exactly in line with the existing building, and it's over time it's settled and it looks like they've made an addition, and it just doesn't. I don't know that I can make this a comment, because what I would have loved to have seen is that it maybe had like a higher roof line to basically accept the existing building, or vice versa. But generally, when you tie those two together, they've got to make darn sure that the foundation, everything's dialed in and it becomes one thing, because I don't know, are they proposing that like the whole thing gets new siding or only the new addition? Because like even that makes it start to look congruent and of one building and not just look like something they tacked on the back.
I am not sure about the primary house.
Yeah. Maybe that's a condition that's made, that they have to update all of the siding and roof material to be congruent as a whole, and not piecemealed addition to new, or to addition to existing.
Is that a condition we could even put on? It
I
seems,
feel a little uncomfortable with that, just considering we're reviewing the addition section, and then that would be requiring work on the primary house itself.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, ultimately, they're going to have to be toothing in the siding. There's going to be an old and new seam that's going to happen there. So I guess it's up to them whether it looks like an addition or not. But that's the part where I would assume we might have some agency to comment on.
I would add that sometimes, the opposite of contrast makes it look like not trying to make it look the same. And I know we're seeing two different shades here, so I don't know if that's the intent or just to show us the two different structures. So
It is vinyl siding, right?
Yes.
Okay. So without knowing specifically, because they haven't said, it sounds like there's going to be some kind of trim piece, and it'll be old on one side and new on the other side.
Lindsay, did you know in advance that they wouldn't be coming? Like, do they have a reason?
They were notified several times, but I didn't receive any follow-up from them.
Okay.
To Matthew's point, it might be more in our purview to request that the addition is a distinct color to differentiate between old and new, just so it's not trying to match something that's unrealistically matched.
I think it's less about old and new. I don't really care about that with the house because it's not historic in any way, from what I understand. It's just about, if they're going to make it just be a new building, like let it all be new. But I'm not going to die on that hill. It just, if I was to do this project, it would have bumped up the gable or something to accept old and new, and it would have been an easy transition between the addition to the existing building. So, but we're reviewing what's there.
Mark, do you want to clarify?
So on the provided page A601, which is the exterior building elevations, key note number 1 says shaded areas existing and not in scope of work, and key note number 4 says new siding to be installed to match existing style and color.
And we can trust them that they'll match it. Perfect.
Thanks, Mark.
I would like to make a motion to approve per staff recommendation and hope that they have a quality builder.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the last two. These are also a set. 301 East Woodland Avenue and 305 East Woodland Avenue. Those are case numbers 12G24IH and 12H24IH.
Okay, these are two new duplexes that are fronting East Woodland Avenue. On the screen right now, you can see the site plan for 301 East Woodland Avenue. And then on the next one, we can see the site plan for 305 East Woodland Avenue. So these are, this is a two-story building. It measures 32 feet wide by 35 feet deep. The adjacent units are 16 feet wide each, and they'll be set 23 feet from the front property line. They both have 8 foot deep by 11 feet wide front porches. The duplex has a front gable roof with a partial cornice return and then a projecting front gable massing for one of the units. At 301 East Woodland Avenue, the parking is a 45 by 44 concrete pad located in the rear and accessed via Cornelia. And then at 305 East Woodland Avenue, the concrete pad is located in the rear and accessed via the alley. And so we can see the front elevations. The left side elevation is the elevation that would be fronting Cornelia Street. So there's some transparency requirements there from the base zoning code. And then the rear and the right side elevation. And so I'll run through some of the findings. This is a project that is using the middle housing standards. So some of that review may trigger additional site plan or elevation revisions. The major ones here would require review by the DRB. The building does meet the average front setback of the block face, which is 24 feet, 24.2 feet. So that meets the middle housing standards as well. The site plans have drawing or walkways from the house to the street for each unit. The block to receive the new construction has Queen Anne cottages, minimal traditionals, and infill construction. It is across the street from some new construction, other buildings that fronting Woodland have been approved at 2 stories in the last several years. At 301 East Woodland, the parking does meet the guidelines as it's located to the rear of the alley. They're using an existing curb cut off Cornelia with the intent of preserving this very large mature oak tree that's right off the alley. However, the concrete pad should be reduced in size. It would most likely be required to be reduced in size by city engineering. That way it's as far away from the alley or from the tree as possible and reducing the visual impact of a very large concrete pad. So final site plans will be necessary to meet city engineering standards. The facade is compatible in scale and width to the other houses on the street, especially as it is 32 feet wide and it has 2 units in one structure. While most of the houses on the block are 1 story, but there was a 2-story single-family house approved across the street in 2022. It reduces the scale by incorporating only 1 front gable massing and stepping back the additional unit. It has corner boards and trim to divide it into separate sections. And it incorporates a front porch that meets the infill housing guidelines. The windows are appropriate for the context. There is a sufficient ratio on the facade. The right elevation would be slightly less visible from the right of way, but it has a paired single hung window on the 1st story and 2 small transom windows on the 2nd story. So additional windows may be necessary on this elevation. The front gable roof has a 6/12 pitch. That's typically the minimum approved for infill housing. The pitch here kind of reduces that overall visual height of the 2-story duplex, and then the design benefits from this additional front gable and the cornice returns. The main note here is that 301 East Woodland is identical to the proposed new construction at 305. The 2 buildings should be differentiated from each other. This could be achieved by flipping the plans or other tactics. The site plans do indicate that they're flipped, but the elevation drawings don't. So staff's recommending approval of 12G and 12H. Well, I'll read both because they're slightly different. 12G, 24IH, subject to the conditions that the concrete parking pad be reduced in size to avoid the tree, and the final site plan meets city engineering standards, meeting all applicable requirements in the city zoning code, and then introducing differentiation between the 2 with approval by staff. And yes, the concrete pad was also, so those motions are identical for 12G and 12H.
Thank you, Lindsay. Can you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. Spencer Stanley, 301 and 305 East Woodland Avenue.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
No, I don't think so. I guess my only comment would be on the concrete parking. I did go out and lay it out myself, and I am probably 5 or 6 feet off of that tree as far as 301 where I'm entering on the curb cut. However, I do see the point that it is rather large. But when thinking about I have 2 units side by side, I'm trying to think how I can get basically the far unit access without them blocking each other, pulling off that curb cut. So if you guys have any recommendations there, I'm just trying to figure out how I can do that without coming off the alley and having to cut the tree.
Engineering will give you some very clear recommendations on that, primarily, and they could in advance, and through middle housing, we'll ask you to show the spaces and the aisle and everything that you're going to have, and we'll get you input on that.
Can I ask on middle housing, my intention was to not go through middle housing, just where this is zoned RN4.
Oh, okay.
I think I meet everything
Okay.
without that. I mean, if
Yeah.
you recommend me doing
That's your
that,
call.
I can. Okay. I just figured it's another step if I can get past that.
We can talk about that one for sure.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll open it up for comments from the board.
Is there any way that on the pressure-treated lumber on the patios and decks, could that be something that's clad with some trim or painted, or just to not have just the raw pressure-treated exposed to the outside? I think that would help the front facade look a lot nicer if it didn't just have the raw pressure-treated wood.
Yeah, sure. Would a stain be suitable? Or,
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
just something that isn't just the green that's hanging out there. Yeah.
Okay. I can make note of that.
And what's the siding that you're proposing? What does it say? Oh, double 5-inch straight lap. It's vinyl?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And just for my own curiosity, why would you not go through middle housing? It's not an extra review. Is it? Well, it is an extra
Well,
review.
it's an administrative review,
Yeah.
although The base zoning would require a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet for a,
Okay.
unless it,
Well, then,
and we can follow up with you.
Okay.
The middle housing, just to Cameron's question, it's an administrative review because there's separate standards from the RN2 or RN4. It's kind of an approval for the duplex that's outside of the planning commission process or et cetera.
Would it allow him to have less parking though?
Yes.
Right. So there is that.
I guess from like a renter's perspective, yeah, the more parking, the better. I mean, I do plan on maybe holding these even myself, and I think that is a selling point. However, if I do need to go through the missing middle approval, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah,
also.
I'm sure the comments from engineering will drive your decision. So
Yeah.
no pun intended.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my dad joke. My only other comment would be on the left side elevation, which since it is going to be prominent facing Cornelia, just considering, I think the front facade does a really good job of breaking down the scale. They're pretty small units, at 16 inches wide or 16 feet wide, but I think it looks, I think it's scaled well and everything on the front elevation. But the left side looks taller because there's, I think there might be something with the siding. I don't think I want to see like a trim piece go through the middle, but maybe a differentiation in the siding of upper and lower would help break down that scale. It looks pretty massive right now, but and also the windows seem a little bit of like a buckshot sporadic. So if there's any like ways those windows can start to have some alignment vertically, I know that's indicative of the floor plan and what's happening inside. I think that would start to clean that up and make it look a lot more proud and beautiful on that main elevation that a lot of people travel, so it'll get a lot of visibility from that.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. A piece in the middle might help the transition there between the two floors. However, I'm looking at trying to get 15% transparency in that side, and it's almost it's very, very tough to do that, and especially to get them to line up the windows on both floors.
Oh, because of the floor plan?
Yes, sir.
I think the one thing then, if you can do, would help it is to a color or scale of the siding from upper to the main floor to the upper is going to help it a lot for the scale being broken down. It can align with the patio bearing and all of that on the other side and start to look a lot nicer, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Same with the rear elevation and the right side, just like carrying that horizontal two materials, but base and top.
Okay.
I wouldn't make this requirement or anything for the motion, but I was curious if you had ever considered doing a wraparound porch in that corner or something to just, it's kind of a prominent corner, like he's saying, Woodland is a very traveled road as well. And so Cornelia is a more peaceful street compared to, imagining sitting on the porch on Woodland, maybe not as pleasant as maybe tucking around to the side.
Good point.
It would also help to break down the scale of that left side a bit. Have you considered that?
I guess where I kind of want the parking to tie directly into the rear there.
Sure.
And there's I think there's a French door or a patio door on the back.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my view. So not really.
Yeah, because you already have the patio on the back.
Right. Yeah, at least a space there for a table or chair or something.
It's a pretty significant slope up from Woodland up Cornelia, isn't it? Am I imagining that correctly? Yeah, so we're going to see quite a bit of foundation. So can you talk a little bit more about what the foundation material is going to be and how big it's going to be?
Yeah, sure. I plan to definitely do painted stucco block. So of course stucco and then paint over top of that. I'm not sure as far as how deep it'll be. That kind of depends on the excavation, depending on how deep we have to go in that. I will say it's not as sloped as you might imagine. I mean, I've walked it several times, and it's not like a very steep hill or anything. There is some slope, but not a ton.
But to her comment is the front elevation or the back, I'd say the front, right, is going to most likely start to incorporate stairs and maybe a handrail depending on how much it gets graded to be able to get your patio on grade at the back. But yeah, maybe we can see since there's no topographic information, maybe we could see a street view of it.
Oh, I was thinking about the other side of Cornelia. The other side of Woodland is what's really steep. The south side.
Yeah, those Those aren't what I was imagining.
Yeah, once you go
It's
to the other
up
side.
the other side
Yeah.
of Woodland.
Yes, that is extreme. That is very.
That's
steep.
before you start climbing.
Yeah,
Got it.
I would
yeah,
say
that's
this
not-
is relatively
right, okay,
flat.
that helps.
It's a very good tree.
However, the oak tree, kind of going back to that, I do want to preserve that if possible. I think it's kind of a landmark in that the area.
Yeah, and
Yes,
on the
tree.
oak tree, with that drive, I mean, as close or far away as you can get that concrete from the drip line, the better, because that root system being covered by concrete's, it's gonna kill it if it's too close to it.
Okay.
So
Yep.
consider that as well.
Do you feel okay with the parking coming off of Cornelia there with the curb cut? I feel like otherwise the tree would probably have to go. I mean, I've went out and measured it a few different ways.
Yeah, I can't comment necessarily on the engineering of Cornelia, but there's no alley behind it to be able to tie into. There is an alley
Right, but what I'm saying, that oak tree is,
right in the alley.
there.
Yeah.
yeah.
And those are two different properties.
But now 305, I do want that to come off the alley. I know that's the best way to do that one.
And there's
This
an
also
existing
used to
curb cut.
have some parking on it.
Yeah, I think through the city engineering process, you'll find a solution to keep that tree and get that curb cut
Okay,
to work.
great, yeah. I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation. Yes, for 12G 24IH and 12H 24IH.
I'd just add that to that motion, I'd second that motion, but add that the applicant showed drawings of breaking up the scale of the, or the bottom and the top with the material or color differentiation on the left, rear, and right facade.
Jared, are you okay with that?
Yes, yeah.
Do you want to add the stain on the wood?
And, yes, correct, thank you. And adding stain to the pressure-treated front porch assembly framing.
I'm good with that too.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of our agenda for tonight. So we're going to adjourn, and happy holidays to everybody. Thank you. Oh, we have a workshop.
I'm joking. Great job.
Pranked me. No, we're for real done. Thanks.